I welcome you all today on behalf of the Indian Embassy for the interaction on the briefing session for the trade mission to India. I now invite our ambassador, Venu Rajamani, to address the gathering. Thank you.
Friends, the purpose of this briefing is actually twofold. One, we thought that I, as Ambassador of India to the Netherlands, would give you a little bit of a context as to how the government of India sees this visit. And then we have invited from India Mr. Deepak Bagla, who is CEO of an institution called Invest India, which has been created by the government of India 3 years back, who will talk to you about India today, the opportunities, the reforms that are taking place, and who will also introduce his organization to you because the institution has been created to facilitate people like you. While Invest India's focus is on attracting investments into India, that is not the only work that they do. They are the best friends you can find in New Delhi and in India, and they are here to handhold all foreign businesses coming to India in every way possible. When Prime Minister Modi was here, at that time itself, Prime Minister Rutte mentioned that he would like to return to India in 2018. So the Dutch government has shown great enthusiasm to strengthening this relationship. The Dutch commitment to making a success of this visit is also seen in the fact that 4 senior ministers, each one of them holding important portfolios, agriculture, infrastructure, healthcare, and trade and international cooperation. 4 ministers are accompanying Prime Minister Rutte. We also have the mayor of the city of The Hague, who is accompanying Prime Minister Rutte. So that shows the high-level commitment amongst the government. And of course, we are absolutely delighted that all records so far have been broken, and 135 companies with around 195 representatives are going to India. So ladies and gentlemen, please give yourself a big hand. Wonderful. Thank you so much. The government of India is convinced of the synergies that exist between the Netherlands and India. The Dutch are world leaders in the field of agriculture, in the field of food processing, in the field of water, in the field of ports, in inland waterways, in cyber security, in science and technology in general, and in smart cities and in health. In each of these areas, India has huge, ambitious programs into which we welcome Dutch participation, and where we would like to see the Dutch help us, collaborate with us in every way possible to make our national programs a success. Equally important is the fact that Netherlands is already the 3rd largest investor into India in 2017, after Singapore and Mauritius, which are not comparable to the Netherlands in any way. Netherlands was the largest investor in India. In just the last 3 years, since, let's say, Prime Minister Rutte's visit to India, almost $8 to $9 billion has flown from Netherlands into India. But equally important is the fact that Netherlands is today the second most important, the second largest destination for Indian investments abroad. Our economic relationship is no longer a one-way street, it is a two-way street. In every city across the Netherlands, you get reports of more and more Indians relocating here, new businesses being set up, the number of students increasing in all the universities. So there is great enthusiasm in India to also strengthen the economic partnership with the Netherlands, and investments are a two-way street between our countries. We are confident that a great future awaits this partnership between the Netherlands and India, and it will be a wonderful win-win relationship for both of us. Thank you very much.
I'd like to now introduce Mr. Deepak Bagla. We're extremely fortunate to have him with us here today. Mr. Deepak Bagla has a professional career of over 3 decades, starting with the World Bank in Washington, D.C., and then with Citibank, where he was for 18 years. In 2007, he joined private equity to start an India-dedicated fund for core infrastructure. Mr. Bagla is currently the CEO of Invest India, the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency, which is promoted by the Government of India. Invest India is also the execution agency for Government of India's Startup Initiative. So now I request Mr. Deepak Bagla to address us. Thank you.
Actually, this is a picture which was taken on the 1st of April. And this was a picture taken at night from a satellite. Just reflects what the Facebook connectivity at that night was in India. And these all little lights were the connections which it was drawing. The second interesting thing is the title of this presentation. The reason why we picked up Transforming India for this presentation is because actually we had a senior US ambassador who had come into India, an ex-ambassador long ago, and what he mentioned last year was that it probably is the most unprecedented transformation ever in the free world. And the reason why he said that is because, you know, the moment you have socio-economic and political and all three elements changing at a completely transforming pace, and by change, when he said unprecedented, it's in terms of both scale and the speed at which it is happening. 205 billion, that's the FDI we got starting 14th April 9, 2014 until the 1st of January this year. We close our financial year in March 31st. I think that figure will be anywhere around 220, 225. It's not yet out, but somewhere there. India today is one of the most open economies on the planet, with private capital having the ability to play a role in each and every sector. And the other interesting aspect of that 205 is over 50% of it is greenfield investment. India today is the #1 greenfield FDI destination on the planet. 2.6 is our GDP today. In fact, we are the 6th largest GDP. By October, November, we will be the 5th largest GDP. In purchasing power terms, that is in dollar equivalent purchase terms, we are the 3rd largest GDP on the planet already. We are at about 8.5 to 9 trillion. There's a multiplication factor of anywhere between 3.5. That 2.6 trillion is going to be about 5 trillion by 2025. The first trillion took us 60 years. Our first trillion happened in April 2007. The second trillion took us 7 years. The third trillion will be taking us 5.5 years. So when we are 5 trillion in nominal terms in 2025, effectively, we are $20 trillion, close to the size of the US economy today in purchasing power parity. The other interesting thing of that 2.6 trillion is that 2/3 of that 2.6 trillion is driven by domestic demand. So we are insulated by global fluctuations. I'll give you a figure. So 52 subsidiaries of global multinationals in India. And I took only those 52 subsidiaries which were listed. And I'm looking at a chart from 2012 to 2017. So while the global corporations, their parent corporations, the average profits were going down 4.4%, the local subsidiary profits went up by 30.6%. And that's 7.4%, the growth. We are the fastest, largest growing economy on the planet. Now, frankly, this story has just begun. India has 29 states. If I break it into, let's say, 3 buckets of 9 states each, or let's say an aircraft with 3 engines, that 7.4 figure is that aircraft being powered only by 1 engine. I today have only 9 states which are growing at 7.4% plus. The second engine is going to start firing in the next 24 months. And the third engine within the next 36 months. So frankly, this is that bottom end of that hockey stick, which you guys are very good at. This is that inflection point where India is at. And this is where the takeoff is starting, and this is actually, the game has only just begun. And when I say the 4 trillion consumer market, that is what is the purchasing power of India today. You have a 1.5 billion figure there. That will be 1.5 billion by 2023. We'll be the largest human capital again on the planet. Now, what's interesting is 1 billion of those will be under the age of 35. At an average age of 29, we will be the youngest human capital all the way up to 2070. We'll have a workforce in excess of 850 million trained human workforce. And you know where that 4 trillion market figure is coming from? So as per a study, and which was done by the top consulting firms, an Indian born in 2000 would be spending $245,000 in his or her lifetime. Multiply that by 1.5 billion. And I take you to my last bucket there, which is 834 and 535. And why I put that bucket there is because that is to show you the importance of freedom in our country as a people. This is the largest celebration of the free world, of our democracy. Those numbers take us back to our last elections in 2014. 835 million registered voters, of which 535 million actually cast their franchise. 5,700 candidates for 543 seats of the parliament. 900,000 polling booths. 1,600 plus registered political parties, of which 464 actually participated in that election. And it was performed to a sigma 6x perfection. Repolling was in less than 0.1% of those polling booths. And that too because of bad weather. This is that country which lives for freedom. It's a part of our DNA. And what is interesting is, if I take you into the next election, and that is when I take you to Transforming India, the first-time voters in the next election, which is next year, we will have 167 million first-time voter. 97 million of those would be from a village in India. And 67 million of those would be women. Now, you know what is interesting, and why do I give you these figures? The first time what has happened in the Indian thing and what is changing is that good economics is now becoming the center of good politics. This generation, this first-time generation, has the same ambitions and the same dreams as all of you. They want development, they want jobs, and they are open to the entire world. That is the change. So any policy change which is happening in India is driven bottom-up. And that is what is now the strength and the permanence of this economy going forward. What has happened in this Make in India thing? You know, we are one of the most complex nations on the planet. A lot of you have been coming there, you've been trying to do business. And we really are amazing at the complexity we can create. Truly. I myself see that every day of my life. And what was happening is when this government came in, the primary objective was, how do we demystify and how do we simplify this entire effort? I've shown you that opportunity which is sitting there. You'll have a $10 trillion economy by 2030. That means in purchasing power terms, we are talking of a $35 to a $40 billion market. The entire objective of this entire exercise was, one, how do we demystify and simplify the system so you can access that market much easier? Two is, how do we bring India into the global supply chain? You know, typically, industry was about 15 to 17% of our economy. And the idea was, the moment we do this, how we can take it up to about a 25% number. And that's where the 4 pillars, the sectors, the processes, the infrastructure, and the mindset. The sectors is where we're coming up with the new FDI policy. And as I explained to you, it's now one of the most open economies. The processes is what I will speak of a little going forward. The infrastructure is what the government is focusing on. And the mindset is what I mentioned to you with the new generation coming into it. If you look at these 3 pink verticals, that is what we call as the India stack. We have 1 billion people connected to a bank account. We have 1 billion people which have a unique identity number called the Aadhaar card. And if you're 1 billion people with mobile connections. You remember when I said 1.5 billion, I didn't say people, I said human capital. That is where the change is happening. This is what is creating that change. And I will speak about that a little more. But this India stack is one of the biggest things which has happened to India after we gave the word concept of zero. And that's what we had a professor coming in from Harvard about last month. And he said this India stack probably is the biggest game changer for the world, of the corporate world. But you know what is happening? The biggest focus in India today, as I said, is simplifying the procedures for you to be able to access it. So in the you have the ease of doing business rankings by the World Bank, which have been acknowledged as one of the best in the world. And even though we are saying that it's a jump from 42 to 100 in a period of 24 months, as for the World Bank, it is the most unprecedented jump ever. You know, in the past 36 months, the central government and the state governments have done 15,000 procedural and regulatory reforms to be able to bring you that number. 15,000. And this process has only just begun. So that huge barrier to entry for a new entrant coming into India because of all the complexities is fast moving away. And that is where is the biggest thing which is happening. In fact, the World Economic Forum has the competitive index. The only country which has moved from a position from the 70s to the 30s in 24 months was India. This is a transformation which is unprecedented so far. All these lines, these are just actually which tell you which is the kind of money we require in the next 25 months. When you go to the website, you'll see each of these colors is a sector. And we have a total requirement of $4.8 trillion, which is what we will require in the next 5 years of investments for India to come in. This is an interesting one, if you look at it. And what you need to do is to keep matching. So let me start with e-commerce, and I won't go through all of them, but let me just pick up a few. You know, last week, Walmart bought into an e-commerce company in India called Flipkart. The valuation of Flipkart in 2013 was $1 billion. 48 months later, do you know what is the value which Walmart paid for Flipkart? $20 billion is the valuation. From 1 billion in 2013 to 20 billion. Just think of the value addition. And where is that coming from? Remember that India stack? Remember those earlier numbers which I took you to? That is the transformation which is pushing it. And let me take you to the green parallel one. We have about 400 million people on the net in India today. We are the second largest country on the net. We are the largest not yet on the net. The first 100 million took us 10 years. The second 100 million took us 3 years. The third 100 million took us a year. Every second, 3 new people are accessing the net in India. And you know what's interesting there? 2 of those 3 are from a village in India. That is what is changing population to human capital. We'll have 750 million people connected on the net by 2023. Over 450 million of them speaking in English and connecting on English. And another coming on. We have 22 regional languages, by the way, scheduled languages. So you can write a letter to the government in any of those 22 languages, and you'll get a response. And most of them have a different script. It's not just English. Let me just pick up one more. Let me just pick up this, and I might touch it later, the smart cities. 10% of the world's population, ladies and gentlemen, lives in our villages. But you know what is happening? Every second, 30 people are moving from a village to a city in India. By the time I've spoken for 10 minutes, just imagine this entire room, multiplied by 7 times, has already moved to a city and an urban township. India is now creating 100 new smart cities. These are brownfield, and every element of these cities is going to be smart. You can look at the traffic lights, you can look at road, construction, water, sewage, waste. Every element is open for investment. Because everything which is happening in these big changes tells you about the opportunity which sits there. Gosh, we need 110 million new houses in the next 5 years. We need 250 airports are being redone. You know, there is The 100 smart cities I've told you, the 5 new industrial corridors are coming up. I will touch up on them again. On the roads, we are doing about 35 kilometers a day. If I include the regional small roads, we are crossing more than 100 kilometers a day. We need to speed that up tremendously to at least 150 to 200 kilometers a day. We have 111 inland waterways. These are projects which are already ready. You guys are the master at this one. And you know, that is one of some of the most amazing investments. I was just going through it before I came here. The IRR on some of those investments is in excess of 76% on that inland waterways. These are just some of the opportunities. Just look at these airports. What we are also doing is redoing 500 railway stations, which are typically railway platforms, you know, are in the heart of the city. We are redoing them like in Aerocity. Food processing, this one is a no-brainer. You know, we may be one of the largest producers of food and grains. Look at where our processing levels are. Fruits and vegetables, 2%. Marine, 8%. Poultry, 6%. Only 35% of our milk. The number one sector where I've got global queries is food processing. $1.5 billion, you remember that figure? $240,000 per person. It has to go into food. Chemicals, obviously with the construction which we are doing, that 70% of India of 2030 is yet to be constructed. Electronics, this is a huge one which is coming. And you know, those little time circles, they're basically just showing you how the maturity levels are coming up. We are way behind on that maturity levels on some of the things. We're very good at the sales and marketing, but on fabrication, you can't even see it because it's probably not coming up on the computer here, but it's a complete blank. This is an entire market which is open. And then it is open to the two of us together with this bond. Have you ever thought of a relationship 400 years old? The last time when we started this relationship, if you recollect, India had about a 25% market share in the global trade, somewhere in the 1700s. By the time we started 1900, we were down to 1%. That circle, as the circle of life we call it, is taking off again. This is a partnership which is there to take up with all the opportunity which is sitting there. These are the queries which I have got from here so far. And these are the sectors which give you an idea as to how this relationship in the past 36 months is working. In fact, the team is current. We have a special dedicated team within Invest India. And we have 26 active investment cases we are working on already from Netherlands. Now, you know what is interesting? That a bulk of them are flowing or were flowing into those 3 states. What is interesting happening in India today is the other states which are really climbing up the ladder very fast and with very strong fire in the belly to come up. The small red ones, the orange or red, whatever you call it, is India in each of those sectors. ESDM is about a 50% which is coming into India on that one, typically on account of one big name from here, Philips. But the opportunity is now huge in each of those sectors. Logistics especially, currently in India, the logistics cost is anywhere between 16 to 17%. We are very high. Global averages are 14. We are trying to bring that down to 12%. So in fact, the industrial corridors are now getting created. So Delhi to Calcutta, just to give you an idea, a new industrial corridor is coming up. Delhi is in the middle, Calcutta is in the far east. A truck leaving Delhi used to take about 11 to 13 days to get to Calcutta. The new corridor will be done by the end of next year. It'll be done in 72 hours. Each of these sectors is huge. This is an amazing story. Actually, we didn't have time to go through it. But you know, starting in the early 1900s, 1930, just imagine when the entire world was going through a global depression, Philips decided that they will come to India and work on it. And in 1940, when they came up with that rotary razor, which I think most men today tend to use, it's been the most successful razor. One of the things they introduced in India was that, and they got to their 1 billion sale mark this year, in January. The reason why I bring this one up is because this is His Excellency's previous office. It looks beautiful when it's lit. And the light for that house is provided by the person who had a 50% stake in that ESDM investment in India, in the previous chart, Philips. That is the first house of the country. You have the UN, UNCTAD, which rates every country's investment promotion agency. So like the World Bank rates ease of doing business, UNCTAD rates IPAs. Until 2014, they said India is not even worth ranking. There were 108 countries on that list. Last year, Invest India was made #1. This is what the youth of this nation are capable of doing for you. That's where you'll find them. Thank you very much.
My name is Evert-Jan Mulder. I'm CEO of Red Plume, and we work in the field of digital transformation public sector. And why we visit India is the issue of smart cities. And what we are hoping to contribute is knowledge and expertise about smart cities. We are involved in many projects in the Netherlands and also further in Europe. And we want to transfer that knowledge to cities in India. So anything about digital leadership, program management, data governance, these are topics we like to share with management of municipalities that are working on the smart cities.
Hi, I'm Sandra Singh. I'm head of Indian Investments in the Netherlands on behalf of ASSOCHAM, the Association of Chambers, and a Dutch chapter of it. And in addition to that, I am managing the Indian practice at HVK Stevens, a Dutch law firm that has a specific focus on sustainable energy. And we have the largest Indian practice that we're currently serving as a law firm. And for us, it really makes sense to have a more specific focus on sustainable energy projects like water management, solar energy, wind farms that we are currently servicing as well. We are actually assisting one of the largest onshore wind parks in the Netherlands.
I'm Marcel Heijman. I work for Rabobank and I'm about to move to India to work and live in Mumbai, starting in July. In terms of a question I have is related to let's say the supply chain in combination with the sustainability paragraph of India. It would be interesting to see how India is dealing with that. Especially pollution is a big topic in India. Not only in India but also in other big countries. At the same time you see that that is heavily impacted by the growth figures of India. So I was wondering how that can be combined. And obviously, if you look into the food and agricultural sectors which we are active in, pollution in itself obviously have a big impact on agri and the crops which need to grow. So that's definitely an interesting topic to discuss further. And it could also be a concern at the same time if this is not managed in the right way.
My name is Namita Krul-Taneja, Indian born but living here for the last 40 years. I'm the Vice President Finance of Netherlands-India Chamber of Commerce and Trade, the NICCT in short. And we are accompanying the mission, the trade mission, as our name says it all. Our mission is to collaborate with businesses, whether in India or in the Netherlands, and to find opportunities for the people who want to start businesses either in India or in the Netherlands. So by virtue of our establishment, we are in the trade mission.
I'm Martin van den Bossen. I'm from Ecoris, which is a worldwide consultancy firm on societal global challenges. And we are going to India next week on the trade mission, and we are especially interested in the smart cities concept. I have myself helped with establishing Ecoris India. Also, we have an office in Delhi. We have about 40 people there. And one of the activities they have done in the last few years is assisting already Indian governments, especially in the state government of Bihar, in doing pre-feasibility studies for smart cities in Bihar. And now, since smart cities is a top priority policy in India, and we have already contributed to the first stages of that development of smart cities. Now actually we want to see what with the trade mission and with getting to know new people, what the future development possibilities of smart cities in India are going to be.
My name is Jolanda van der Aert from Amsterdam in Business, head of India desk. And I'm traveling with the mission because currently there are over 200 Indian companies in the Netherlands, of which 100 are located in the Amsterdam area. We're looking to build the cluster further. So together with the Netherlands Foreign Investment Agency, we will be meeting the key decision makers of Indian companies in the various events. I will also be chairing a smart city event in Delhi, where I will chair and give an overview of the initiatives in terms of smart cities we have executed in Amsterdam. So I'm looking forward to share knowledge and gain new ideas on both sides.
I think the market opportunity in India is unprecedented. It's never been there in the free world before. The more interesting thing is that this government has taken huge level of steps to simplify foreign investors and any investor functioning within the system and coming to invest. So you put these both together, it's a no-brainer. You have a very good result, and we would encourage, and we are looking forward to seeing everyone coming in, and more so anybody from Netherlands, because it's such an old relationship. It's a relationship where they understand each other very well, and they know the opportunity sitting there. So it makes sense to take this bond to a new level now.